Our society and our world are full of these invented and built up and contrived facades. And sometimes some people come along with a hammer and smash that facade. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.
Welcome to the future. Shit where you please. The Wi-Fi's killer, but there's no more bees. So there's hardly any flowers, there are very few trees, and you'll pay $1,000 for some honey for your tea. But we got these awesome collars, mine's an Apple Model 3. It allows for better movement than the Tesla X Elite. It lets you customize the ads that it implants in every dream. And for premium subscribers, doesn't shock you in your sleep. But it doesn't stop there. It can analyze your speech, and if it hears disinformation, then it notifies police. It's a swift re-education, but it knocks you off your feet like your booster every 7th week. I faced the future boldly with 2 eager open eyes, and I picked a couple nuggets up that blew my fucking mind. Like you can taxidermy someone while they're technically alive, and they'll shine when it's election time. See, the Democratic voter base will pay them zero. Never mind if voting for the scarecrow is a vote along their party lines. They could stare into its marble eyes and claim there's something dignified. Unlike real politicians, this one doesn't need an oxygen or kit supply. But its function is the same as those who came before. The goals are never misaligned. It still spends all its working time performing pre-recorded fleecing sessions where it sugarcoats your slow and hungry genocide, while pouring billions into Nazi coffers, all the while selling you the story that we're moments till the MiGs arrive. So fuck it, ask Zelensky if he'll help replace our leaded pipes. Watch a fleet of Penske's show, stacks of bills in every size. Guess it only took a black sun and a couple hiles. Honorary goose step and some Nazi boots a quarter mile, all while Biden sneers his sordid smile. I don't know what was in this morning's vial, but it makes him stare 1,000 yards through all the prompters and the cards like he can smell the nearest child. His eyes are wide and wild, wider than the grave in which another 1,000 families were tossed in as I typed until they rose up to the sky unceremoniously piled. Which sort of flies right in the face of all this network ticker tape where the American economy has superhuman vitals.
And sometimes some people come along with a hammer.
See, I like to think my trial's gonna play like a recital. I'll denounce the world around me and accuse the most entitled, who weaponize their titles, whose pull is something title, who'd starve us all to death to best delight their blinded idol. So they might destroy the record, and I will never get to vinyl. So my word is not immortal, but it's final.
It's a brilliant, powerful hammer. It's a brilliant, powerful hammer to smash that facade.
Hello,
Hi,
hello, everyone.
Mastermind.
How are we all doing?
Hi, Mastermind. Hi, civilians. I'm so excited. Let's go.
We have a store in show.
And
We
Eric,
got,
in the
yes,
building, or in the building, in the
in the house.
in the
Let's go
multiverse,
with the house. Yeah,
in the house.
I'm excited though. We are going to start doing 11 Demand series, so this is going to be awesome. We got. Go ahead. I'm
In
sorry.
the house. He says he's in the house.
in the
and
house.
and I want to do it with the intention of like really, really digging into each demand. And I want to hear what people have to say. Like, is anything missing? Right? Because I'm sure. Well, I'll let Eric speak for himself. How about that?
Absolutely.
Let's bring him
Absolutely.
on in here.
There he is.
Oh, go ahead and unmute yourself, Eric.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
There he is.
I
Hi,
am
Eric.
audible. Audible. How's it going? It's been hot where you are?
Hot where I am, yes. Yeah, we had triple digits. We came down a little bit, but yeah, it's still warm.
We haven't quite hit the triple, but it's been hot for us. Actually put the air conditioner in the window and everything. So,
Where are you, Eric?
Massachusetts.
Oh, and it's hot.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, for us, it all depends.
Right.
You know, it's all relative. But
It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
Chicago hot.
we got a bit into 90s.
Oh,
Well, and when you get that humidity, that's what really
Mhm.
cranks it up there. I'm in the desert, so I get to 100, and as long as I got shade, I'm fine. There's no shade when you're in the Midwest, and it's 95% humidity.
Yeah.
so Eric, I was just trying to explain to the civilians in the chat
Hello, civilians.
that I mean I'm interested in hearing, what they have to say about each of your demands and what solutions they might have. It might, trigger something in you because you did say it's a living, breathing document. So I know you're open to suggestions.
Yeah, definitely. You know, there's kind of two approaches. Also, is that there's the approach of adding things that are in the 11 or right in that main list. But the other way something like this can grow is to like link into things. Like you see, like the second one there is linked constitutional amendment that links out to move to amend. So there are a lot of things like that can even go in as well to kind of flesh things out.
Mm-hmm. And
One
this
of
is more. And
Yeah,
this.
I just wanted to fly some after
What's
Go ahead,
that?
Mastermind.
I just wanted to throw up the list of the demands real quick so everybody gets a quick refresher. And what we want to do is then, there's 10, revamp taxing and funding, which is actually probably going to come back and tie into number one, and then democratize the enterprise. But let's get back up here to
One of the things I tried to do
fixing
with it
big
in
money in
general.
politics and government.
One of the things I tried to do with it in general is to keep it concise. That's one thing is you don't want to do with people is when they approach it to run into this huge wall of words that you just can't even like take in. And I think it's a lot better to do this headings and lists and then link into things for people who want more info.
Yeah, I noticed that it's some bullets of like the high level. These are the demands that we have, and then like the solutions on how to reach those. That would it'll start getting wordy at that point, and so that would be like if you want to look at the solutions for this bullet point, then you could link it into that. That was my take.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So.
Yeah. I mean, the lists are good. That's like it's almost. I think that's even like a PR thing. Is that it's you don't want to just hit people with a wall of words. People take in lists a lot faster and easier.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want kind of a starting point to this whole thing, a good starting point might be the MCDS.
Yes, I was just about to share that.
And as far as the link to it, you can find all this stuff at 11demands.org. And that's another thing is kind of a PR thing is, not that I'm a PR person, but I mean, it's important and branding's important if you want to get somewhere, is you want to make things simple, right? So if you want to find this, 11demands.org. You have to spell out 11 though. I didn't make it that simple. But yeah. But yeah, I don't know if I can present on here. Let's see. Share.
Yeah, you have to spell out 11. So please disregard. I think I could delete that comment. Actually. Wait, everything's moving so fast. Wait.
I got it.
There you go. 11demands.org. But yeah.
Dr. Nick says, "What are we demanding?" I'm glad you asked.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
We're getting there. I'm trying to share because it's best to start with MCDS, right?
Well, if you want to share, I have a share up there. I think if you wait, can I tell it? Where is it?
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, if you pop up my share, it'll come up. If we want to try it that way.
Add the stage. There we go.
There we go. All right. Yeah, let me see if I can Can I resize that? Well, it'll do. I can make it a little bigger. Let's see. Make sure I'm on the right screen. There we go. Nice and big. All right. MCDS. Money Corruption Demand Solution. So a simple framework for understanding how our government really works. And, of course, importantly, how we can fix it, right? So you start with the M, the money, right? Always start with the money. You know what I always think about it.
All of the money.
There's that saying, right? If someone tells you, like in sports, if a player gets a big contract and then he says, well, it's really not about the money. It's about the money. and
always about the money.
It's always right. Always take it back to the money. Always follow the money. Government, politics. It's all about the money. And I think we should view it as this core problem, right? To me, there's a core problem in the whole system, in that there's a small number of people, the billionaires, right, and like the 100 millionaires. I kind of refer to them as the top 0.1%, with this vast money and resources, and they're basically running everything, but they're using that money and resources to corrupt the government, politics. They own media, and it all comes back to that source. Material safety data sheets. The other one I keep hearing is ACDC.
Right.
But no, MCDS. And so there's this core issue, right, of the billionaires injecting their money into government and politics and influencing it to such a degree that the 99% don't even have a say anymore, right? They don't. Our so-called representatives don't represent us, right?
Yeah, we haven't had a democracy in a long, long time.
And so it seems to me, if we're trying to really get to the bottom of things and then towards fixing things, if we're not addressing that core root issue, then I don't see how we get there, right? So it's always start with the money, right? Big money runs everything, right? The answer to all the why questions, right? Why are the squads so weak? It's not because they're not courageous. It's not because they don't understand. That's another big one. Oh, why don't they understand what's going on? No, they're corrupt.
Yeah, exactly what's going on.
They're working for their paycheck, their position, their privilege, and they don't work for us, right? They work for the people who pay, from the billionaires. Why are Republicans so vicious? Because they're paid to be that way. And so right out of the money, you get to the corruption, of course, because what's happening is the billionaire class, their playthings, the mega corporations, the military industrial complex, it's of a piece, and it feeds in, and it's straight up corruption. So,
yeah.
Well, that you never see poor people saying we need more police. It's always the rich people that say we need more police because they know what's coming down the road. And they know that's the only one that's going to keep them from getting eaten.
And they know what police do.
Protect property. Yeah.
Yeah. Protect property.
At least it's not MSNBC. Yep. So why does everyday people go out and defend these people? So another big thing that that can be a whole nother show, right? Is narrative.
I'm going to be right back, you guys.
And so, it gets into why do people, defend them or support them, vote for them? It's because of the narrative. It's because, they set up this big right-left game, and that's what they want us fighting about. And they don't want us looking which way. They don't want us looking up economically.
Right. There's enough of the normies that have eaten enough of the propaganda that they've got Stockholm syndrome. They learn to love your oppressor. Eventually, that's going to happen in any scenario. And we've had, generations of that kind of propaganda. I mean, how far do you want to go back before, you could go back to Woodrow
Adam and Eve.
Wilson, right? Yeah. I mean, it's not a new story by any stretch of the imagination.
Yep. And so, the education is a huge part of it, of everything that, these kind of spaces that I kind of call the real left, is the education is the important first step, right? Like I even here, if we get my mouse into the right place here, there we go.
Well, that's what I was surfing Twitter today, and somebody threw up a Rothschild quote about, or was that Rockefeller? Sorry, about how he doesn't want school for thinkers; he wants school made for workers. Just smart enough to punch that big shiny button.
So what I lead with on the whole site, the whole 11demands.org site, is both parties are thoroughly corrupt, only serve the interests of the billionaires, right? Educating people about this difficult reality is a crucial first step. And, we are in quite a time, right? We are in quite a moment where more and more people are cluing in. Like more and more people are understanding, like, this ain't right. And they're understanding Biden's not going to fix it and Trump's not going to fix it.
Right. And I think all this stuff that's going on in Gaza, in Palestine, I think that's starting to accelerate some of this stuff where, it's not just, the 1% or, the super rich. You're actually starting to be able to put faces to the evil, and it makes it more visceral. You can actually
totally
see when you can put a face to the evil. It makes it a lot easier to get pissed off about it. It's not a hypothetical anymore.
When you're seeing burnt and mangled bodies of dead children every damn day, on Twitter, if you don't actively close your eyes, it's in your face, and that's not a small thing, right? This is a huge moment, So people are getting to there, but then they need a path, right? They need, why is this happening? What do we do about it? What is this step 2, right? And so the 11 demand strategy proposes the formation of a mass movement centered around a coherent, concise set of demands and the convergence of direct action, mutual aid, and electoral efforts to achieve a better world is kind of the big picture, view. But I brought that in terms of like education and whatnot, crucial step 1. But if you don't have a step 2 for people, if all you're ever doing is pointing out and listing the problems, it's important, but it's not going to get us there, and people are going to get discouraged. So MCDS, is an attempt to get to that step 2, to say, what would a movement-based, demands-based solution look like? So we get to the corruption, right? And this is still on the part of, what's the problem, right? What's wrong with the system? But part of this too is this idea of calling them out, right? They must be called out relentlessly as corrupt, So of course Republicans, are, that kind of bribery, but bribery politics is their brand. So of course they're corrupt, but Democrats are just as corrupt. A slightly different flavor. And so when it comes to the Squad or Bernie, right, we should be yelling it at them. They're corrupt. They're not working for us. But then you get to the D, right? The demands. In that, if you don't have a clear list of demands, then how can you really expect anything to happen, right? You really have to be calling out the power structure for specific demands, and the other good thing about the demands of having a good list of demands, for instance, okay, so I'm all about this 11 demands, so, and I have this at my fingertips, so anytime if I were interacting with a politician or someone's asking me like why don't I support some progressive Democrat, right? Supposedly progressive, no such thing, but well, what I say is, well, they don't meet my demands. And it's really as simple as that. If they meet my demands, then I'll start looking at them. And if they don't, then no, I'm not going to support them. And I'm
non-starter. Absolutely.
Right. And so it's kind of amazing to me that people are operating and working through all these things without clear demands. So I say,
I'm sorry, I did not mean to do that. I just took you off
yeah, we're all good.
the presentation. So let me go back.
I got you.
All right. So to wrap up this screen, you have to have the clear list of demands, right? And we're going to talk about that. And then what else is good about the demands is that then flowing from the demands becomes the solutions, right? If you're demanding a real healthcare for all system, then that inevitably becomes like, well, you need to have a national single payer covering everything type of system, right? If you're demanding that taxation be more fair, then that gets you right into what would more fair taxation look like. And so that, so the solutions are a key part of it. So that's MCDS. And I like to almost start everything and end everything with MCDS.
Excellent. So
I'd like to talk about the money part real quick.
Sure.
The money.
Let's talk money, honey.
Money.
Let's see.
Money.
So I just wanted to just talk to the group about something called the Ratchet Effect in money. Everybody probably already knows what it is by now, but
anybody that buys gas does.
Doesn't. So this is like a high level. It's just 3 paragraphs. So can y'all see that? I need to make it bigger, huh?
Control plus.
Oh, and it got smaller. Okay, there we go. So under modern ideological conditions, a national emergency produces a virtual free-for-all of policies, programs, and plans that expand the government's power in new directions and strengthen it where it previously existed. The crisis-driven surge of government growth may be analyzed using in terms of a multi-phase ratchet effect. Opportunists, both inside and outside the formal state apparatus, play distinctive roles during each phase of this phenomenon. Indeed, their actions create the ratchet effect. These opportunists pursue their objectives by means of new government personnel, new government policies, new government agencies, new statutes, and new court decisions. When the crisis ends, some emergency agencies remain in operation, some emergency laws remain in force, and some court decisions reached during the crisis stand as precedents for future decisions, including decisions to be handed down in normal times. Above all, the populace goes forward and altered political and ideological sensibilities. Efforts to rein in the government's crisis-driven overreaching must concentrate first on affecting the public's thinking about how the government ought to act during an emergency, and second, on changing the machinery of government so that ill-considered or poorly justified measures cannot be adopted so easily. Now, what does that have to do with money, you may ask? I mean, they're all, and then for those of you who are visual beings, I don't know why this isn't working. I have to stop sharing and share each time, which is going to suck, but we'll get through it. If you're a visual being, I'm just going to show you a visual of the ratchet effect. And while I'm saying that, I'm going to give an example in terms of like taxes. So every time, like Paul Ryan's tax cuts, that gave those big tax breaks for the rich, right? And then when Biden came in, he said, "Oh, I rolled back the tax cuts," but he only rolled back like a very small percentage of the tax cuts, right? So he said that to make people think they were doing he was doing something good for them, but you got to follow the money. They're still getting about 80, I think it was like 87% of those tax cuts were still in place, and Obama did the same thing. So it's imagine a gear, it rotates easily in one direction, but then when you try to pull it back, it's like forced, and it won't go back. So it'll only go back like 1 or 2 gears, and then it gets locked. So that's what the ratchet effect is, and I just thought that was
No, definitely.
Yeah. I think gas prices are a pretty obvious one of that one. The first time gas ever gets up above $3 a gallon, it's never going to go under 2. And as soon as it gets up over 4, it's never going to get back down under 3 ever again.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Yeah, and I think you can think of like the billionaire interest as like this force, right? That's constantly pushing policy, pushing the government, and always pushing the wealth inequality, right? And it's just, and so it's like this constant pushing for things. So, and whenever it's something that benefits the ultra wealthy, right, then it gets pushed and encouraged under the guise of, oh, this will help the economy and all this stuff. And whenever it's anything that helps the 99%, then it's like, oh no, that's not going to get pushed so much. And over time, you end up in the situation where we are now, where the wealth inequality that exists now is kind of hard to wrap your mind around. It is just, it's like the pharaohs, the wealth inequality. It's crazy.
I think we're getting past that point even. I think we're getting to when you have Jeff Bezos with more money than the rest of the world, it's starting to become an issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
those are the ones you know about. The real ones that are in control are the ones you don't even know their name.
Yeah, when it's things for the 99%, that was a good point that you mentioned, Eric. It's like that's when the pay-go becomes highly important. We got to figure out how to pay for it.
Oh, the deficit. Oh.
Oh no, how are we going to do this? There's no way.
Yeah, it's a game, and if we allow them to, the top 0.1%ers make the rules, but we do have the numbers, so we have to figure out how to leverage our numbers.
Mm-hmm. Well, first we have to wake people up, so we actually do have the numbers, because as long as you're still in the duopoly, we don't have the numbers. We have a long way to go. So should we go ahead and take these bullet by bullet and discuss them?
Light this candle.
Sure. Are we ready for that?
I'm always ready to talk about 11 demands.
Well, and since we're talking about getting money out of politics and out of government, big money interests, that is not a new issue. That has always been an issue. And Abby, I'm going to take over for 1 second because I want to show this. I got some
mastermind takeover.
Boilerplate, what they've been saying. Is this it? No, where'd it go?
While you're doing that, I just want to thank our Shmasha for manning the chats for us. Smith.
Oh. Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm going to zoom this in. Okay, so we've got just the boilerplate arguments or instructions on how to get money out of politics. But if any of these were good or would have worked, we wouldn't have the issue anymore. So I was thinking that maybe we could be more effective by saying how these points are not going to work or how they need to be tweaked. And this is not Eric's. This is just like your general, hey, if you want to start an organization, this is what you do kind of boilerplate instructions, I guess. But there was a couple in here, like number 2, contact your representatives, let them know you care about this issue. Now, if you really think that calling AOC is going to get her butt to change, go, you know what, you're really right. So, a lot of these are kind of not even points. But the first one, support organizations working towards campaign finance reform. Groups like End Citizens United, Common Cause, and the ACLU advocate for policies like overturning Citizens United and increasing transparency in political donations. We have to get rid of Citizens United. I don't see how any of this, and I get why you put this one up as number 1 on your demands, because I think this is going to be the one that's the hardest. It's going to be the one that's impossible. This is going to be the one that hurts the most, but it has to be the one that's done, or else the rest of it's all in vain.
I think one thing that's really important is to have strong demands, to have demands that are not like an initial compromise, like demanding Medicare for all. Well, you're demanding a compromise. Right? Medicare for all is a stopgap. It's like, what you want to be demanding is US NHS. You want to be demanding a national healthcare system like the UK has, like every other developed country has, that actually takes care of everything and everyone, period. That's what you demand, right?
Well, and actually, if you think like them, you have to demand like a used car salesman. We need to demand that they pay us to go to the doctor, and then we'll bargain back into, okay, we'll do it for free. Just for you, because I like you. I'm not going to charge you to go to the doctor when I go.
We're not going to go to the French Revolution solution. We'll go another way. If you if you meet us where you need to. But even like Citizens United, right? Saying we need to overturn Citizens United. Well, to be honest, that's basically a Democratic Party talking point, and it's basically meaningless. What you need is a real, and we'll get into this with the money part of it. You need a full up move to amend style constitutional amendment that says simply money is not speech, corporations are not people, period. And that's the kind of demand, that we need.
I want to delve into that, Eric. But that's bullet 2, so I'm going to hold my thought for bullet 1, which is
you can go in any order you want. Let's hit it.
Pass laws for clean elections and public financing of campaigns in every state. So, to me, a solution for that would be open source voting machines. Open source.
Well,
machines. So
so open source is actually further down.
Oh, is it?
Oh, sorry, what? I know with the delays, sometimes we kind of overtalk each other because of the delay.
I see.
Bryce Smith.
Okay.
Yeah. I see, man,
right
Bryce.
Here. Okay, so I read this a while ago, but I didn't want to read it all this time.
Yeah, so the open source part is under an election system we can trust.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the only thing with the open source is if it's not hidden, wouldn't that make it that much easier to hack?
Nope. It's actually counterintuitive. Because when you do open source systems, and I can speak to this directly because I actually am a software engineer and I do this stuff for a living and as a hobby, believe it or not, as well, is that when you put something out in open source, as long as it's not like an orphan project that's people have forgotten about, as long as it's an active project with a lot of eyeballs on it, that actually makes it impossible to do significant hacks and backdoors and things, because every single modification to the project is viewed by everyone in the community. And so,
Right.
so stuff doesn't even get close to being put in if it's hanky or if there's a problem with it. As long as it's a well-run open source project, it's actually more secure than closed sourced and commercial software.
Sure, that
But
makes
that
sense.
could be a whole nother show. Open
Like
source.
trying to steal the crown jewels in a room full of people. If everybody's
Yep.
watching, you can't really. You have to come in from the ceiling.
But yeah, if we want to go back to, if we want to get back into the past laws for clean elections, so this is actually not even new. Massachusetts here had a set of laws on the books that there actually was called clean elections, and it established a funding system. This is going back maybe 20 years now, maybe a little more. And there were candidates that ran, and it allowed them to have a good source of funds. They would kind of opt into the system, I think, and get significant funds. And then, of course, the establishment, hated it, or it came in as a ballot initiative too. Massachusetts has ballot initiatives, and we recently did what was it? Oh, the millionaire's tax. They recently did a millionaire's tax as a ballot measure in Massachusetts that actually increased taxes on that group and higher. And so the stuff isn't crazy. Now you have to be careful, right? Because then what happened is the establishment did this whole narrative about well, they're using taxpayer money for negative campaign ads, and they got some like negative kind of thing against it, and then they put a non-binding ballot measure on it saying, like, do people think that taxpayer money should be used for elections? It was this trick kind of question, and they got like that to like pass by like 50 something percent. It was non-binding, but then that gave the legislature the excuse, and they defunded the clean elections law, and they basically wiped it off the books. So it's not going to be an easy fight, but it's possible. And I think it's more possible now than ever. So yeah, so you get clean elections, public financing. There's a lot of things you can do at the state level.
I'm all for political bucks. Political bucks only.
Like,
every voting
like voucher
gets yes, and you can spend it as you wish.
Democracy dollars. Sometimes they call them that system.
Okay, yeah. Political bucks, democracy dollars, whatever we call it. Every citizen gets it, and they can spend it on who they choose. And that's how
that's a really good idea.
Yeah, is that down at the bottom, or
actually, it's that could go in there somewhere.
Well, and I think
I'll make a note of that.
Half of the problem with campaign finance is that money goes to CNN, MSNBC. It's all for ad buys. Mm-hmm. It's not like I don't need Joe Biden to spend $20 million for me to get to know his name. I already know his name. I already know all these assholes' names. I don't need them spending my money to tell me who they are. It is infuriating. And then when they can, print money as fast as they can to pay for weapons from Boeing, but they still want to come after me for property tax for some, they want to tax me on the shit I already own.
Funny how that works, yeah.
And
it makes no sense.
I also think PAC should be illegal. I don't know if that's down at but super PAC should be illegal.
Oh yeah, political action. Yeah.
Yeah. So that gets into. And how do you guys think my sound is? Does it sound okay?
It's
yeah.
Good.
All right. Yeah. Old Man Barker's been thinking the sound is a problem, but I actually listened to it, and I don't know. It seems okay to me too. All right.
Your voice sounds like a Leonard Cohen angel.
Oh, I think he said he hears your when your lips go. I guess.
Well, are you hearing that? I don't know.
Yeah, I hear that. It doesn't bother me, but I think it bothers him.
Oh, who's talking shit? Don't make me look up the chat. I haven't been paying attention to the chat because I've been actually having an engaged conversation here, so I do apologize to the chat if you've been talking to me. I'm trying to stare at the
Yeah, well,
screen.
people who don't do this or try this kind of some of them don't understand that it's difficult to do both. to be speaking, on air and look at the chat is is tricky, put it that way.
Yeah,
That's why we needed a Smasha.
Thank you, Smasha.
Mm-hmm. It takes a village, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, so when we're getting into stuff like the super PACs and so forth, this really puts us into the next one about the constitutional amendment. And so the reason you need that, and in a way, I thought of having that first because that is almost a prerequisite for a lot of this. But when you lead with enact a constitutional amendment, it does scare people because that's not an easy lift. That's going to be a big effort.
Okay.
Well, and that's the funny thing is it was supposed to be another breathing document, and that's why we have the Bill of Rights, and you have amendments. Personally, there's a few amendments that can probably be retouched on, like the 13th, but that's doesn't mean that we can't make more amendments. And I get how the early ones were important, and then they kind of trail off because we had those problems taken care of. But I think there's some big important amendments that we could do. And we're up in the 30s now.
Well, sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
That was it. I
want to be even more radical than that because I've been about 1.5 weeks old since I learned that Thomas Jefferson wanted the Constitution to be rewritten every 19 years. I did not learn that in school, and so I want to read a quote from him.
Yeah, Washington said that duopoly is the worst thing that could ever happen, and he was right.
Let me make this big for you. The question whether one generation of men has a right to bind another seems never to have been started either on this or our side of the water. But between society and society, or generation and generation, there is no municipal obligation, no umpire, but the law of nature. We seem not to have perceived that. By the law of nature, one generation is to another as one independent nation to another. On similar ground, it may be proved that no society can make a perpetual constitution or even a perpetual law. The earth belongs always to the living generation. Every constitution, then, and every law naturally expires at the end of 19 years. If it be enforced, it is an act of force and not of right. So I'm in agreement with that. Why are we still? I don't think the amendments are enough because even the amendments aren't like you said, the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, even those aren't written well. So I say chuck the whole thing and start over.
I mean, one of the problems is that under our current system, right, would you really want, put it this way, would you want our current Congress to write a new constitution?
Yeah. Well,
talk about a horror show. That's what's tricky about this idea of, let's just rewrite it, right? You have to look at the power structure and who would do that.
When I say chuck the whole thing, I'm talking about all of Congress, start everything over. All y'all need to get out.
Well, I think that's the problem.
Game for that.
I don't want to come off ageist here or anything, but the people that we have in there now that would make a new constitution are way too old. We're talking about, Thomas Jefferson, I think, was an old man in the room. He was like 39, down to like my forefather was 18 years old. All these guys were in their 20s when they wrote this because they had the bravery and they had the balls to do it. They weren't afraid of change. And that's what happens when you get old, you get afraid of change. I don't think there should be so much a 35-year-old maximum on president of the United States as there should be like a 45-year-old maximum, not a minimum, a maximum. So instead of having a minimum of 35, have a maximum of 45, because I know experience counts for something, but I think that
45 is kind of young.
Yeah. Well, how old was let's see, how old was
I'm
John
47.
Adams? Yeah. But I think that you could, at 47, sure, you could be an elder on a council of advisors. And I think, that would be awesome. There should be a whole table full of elders there. But I don't think that we should be handicapped by their fear of change or fear of progress. They can't be, I did it this way when I was 20, and now that I'm 70, it should work the same exact way. Well, no, that was 50 years ago.
Okay. Sorry, I'm reading some of these chats because they're speaking on these things. So Bad Cookie says, I agree, Abby Do. It should be the same age, same as retirement age. Tasmit, can you put up your comment? With technology, why do we need government officials speaking for us? People should be able to speak directly. Well, I mean, technology is moving pretty fast. And
I don't disagree with that.
I don't disagree with that one.
It scares me that could be a way easier way to, steal an election or, change.
So, can you also put, did you want to say something before I move to the next point, Eric?
Yeah. So all this almost kind of dances around the core problem, right? What is the core problem in our government, in our society, in our whole system right now? What's the core problem? MC, the money and the corruption, right? We've got too much money and power in the hands of this too few people, this small group of people, that top 0.1%. And so, my answer when we're talking about any of these things, some of them are good ideas, some of them are bad ideas, but it really isn't going to amount to anything as long as that core rot, that core problem is still in place. And so that's why, when I talk about these things and really dig down to them, I say it always comes back to that. How do we address that? And, there are limited options. I mean, of course, a core problem, and people will say, and they're correct, right, is capitalism, right? I mean, capitalism is a shit system that pushes all the money up to those who already have it, but, we don't have a magic wand to eliminate capitalism, right? A core problem is, you already have this super, super rich, super wealthy class of billionaires and the whole huge corporations and all this stuff, right? It'd be great if we could simply defund them, right? And level the playing field again. But we don't have a magic wand.
Tax.
What's that?
Get the corporate tax rate back up to 78, 80%.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's lots of good ideas, but we don't have a magic wand to make that happen.
Yeah.
So when I look at, like, in the system, there is what I would suggest is a weak point in their control in the system. And that is, we do have elections, and in order for them to corrupt the government, they have to get that money to them, right? You basically have the puppet strings. The puppet strings are the money, the legalized bribery, all that corrupting money coming into the system. And so the best shot, in my mind, to addressing all this is to attack it at that point. And so everything in the number one demand on the list about big money in politics is hitting at that weak point. And so you want to make things like these big donations into candidates. You need to make them illegal. We need to make that illegal. We're going to have the constitutional amendment, because until we have that, we can get these laws on the books, and then they get challenged up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says, "Oh no, money's speech. You can't regulate that this way." Corporations are people. They have, they have speech and this rights. You can't regulate them that way. So that's why, in my mind, getting that move to amend style constitutional amendment that says money is not speech, corporations are not people, that has to happen. in order for us to really attack this weak point of how the billionaires inject the money into the system.
Can you find that
Well,
golden monarch comment for me again?
I know you've had this list going on for a couple years now, but it's funny now that after things are firing off in the Middle East, how obvious it is who's owning, who's paying, who's running the narrative. It's there's no way for the little people to take control of CNN. We're never going to have the narrative there. We're never going to be able to say, hey, other than, TikTok and Twitter, which is why they're trying so damn hard to get rid of it.
Yep. So I wanted to, this is a suggestion from Golden Monarch. It says age limits, ban insider trading. Yes. Via crypto and stocks, get foreign and dark money out of politics. That I would love to talk about that. Term limits and update the Constitution. So, like that.
The last guy that tried to get foreign money out of politics got taken out in a convertible in Daily Plaza. So, I think they made their point there.
I would add to this and say that if you have dual citizenship, it's illegal for you to hold any public office.
That's an easy one.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be top of my list, but
I mean, it's certainly not at the bottom because that's how they've infiltrated our government. The Zionists has infiltrated our government through their dual citizenship. Yeah. And can you bring up that one from Bad Cookies?
I mean, I don't disagree all that in AIPAC and whatnot. I guess I just see AIPAC as one flavor of billionaire influence. It wasn't AIPAC that got all that money funneled through Ukraine to the military industrial complex. It's yes, it's good that we can focus on them and they make it obvious, but it comes down to this, to me, this generic just money corruption that our system runs on. And if we don't focus on and fix that, it's not going to happen.
Well, yeah, that's the corruption that says that they get permission to print money to give to Raytheon and Boeing, and they just print their own money.
Must be nice, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. But I still don't have, if they can do that and they can print all the money they need, why do they keep coming to me every year wanting some of my income? I don't understand the purpose.
Well, one thing, you have to get into what is taxation for. Right?
Yeah, that's right. It's punitive. Taxation is strictly punitive to corporations.
Well, I mean, that's the way it operates. But in terms of conceptually, like, why do you have taxes in a system? The reason you have taxes is to funnel the money back in, right? You can't just keep creating money and never bring it back. And the money that comes back in through taxes, literally just gets destroyed. It just gets deleted. Delete key. Sure. That's what happens to your tax payments. They literally just get deleted. And so what's important, and this is another thing that I'd like to get out there and stress, is it isn't about taxes, whether taxes are too high or taxes are too low. Like, that's really not important. What's really important is who is getting taxed, who has the most burden. Right. And so if they lower the taxes, but it gets lowered on the billionaires, well, then that's not going to get it done. We need tax increases on the billionaires. We need tax increases on the huge corporations, and the tax breaks and whatnot, and the tax cuts need to happen to the 99%.
Right.
So Eric, okay.
So as far as Bad Cookies comments, I can address them generally.
This isn't the what is this?
I know he's talking about magic wand and whatnot. I mean, another thing I want to say about all this is the other thing I'll say is that none of this is going to happen in my mind. And Jill Stein's not going to get elected president. And none of this stuff is going to happen unless we literally get in the streets by the millions and with our fists in the air and demanding these changes. That's what's needed here.
Well, that's the uncomfortable truth, is it's going to take pitchforks, and there's not a lot of people that have the stomach for bloodshed.
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. I don't think you need. I think you need numbers, right?
Because Eric, I feel like I
huge
feel like we
numbers, you can
already.
do anything. Sorry, what?
Oh, sorry. I feel like we already did that with the George Floyd protests. I mean, we kind of did that already. We never got a Floyd. We never got that bill passed. Uh, so
Hmm.
black
It
people are
got
still.
co-opted.
But yeah, well, it's not even about it being that's not even the point because it's still a movement of the regular people. Yeah, they created an organization that got co-opted, but we
Hmm.
don't care about that. We care about that bill being passed, and it never did. Um,
Hmm.
we kind of already did that. I mean, we're doing that now with the protests um, for the Palestinian people. We did that at Occupy Wall. Like we do that,
Hmm.
and nothing comes to fruition. So I'm not so sure.
Well, look, every road, every potential solution plan strategy is a long shot, basically. If someone has a real, better idea, better viable path to real change, I'm all ears. Um, what I'm proposing is we get clear on our demands and we get what's the word for it? We get demanding about it. Anyways, we get stubborn about it. We get insistent about it. But first, we have to be clear on what we're demanding. And the left, even the parts of the left that I like, are generally, you know, I can't. I don't hear demands from most on the left, and that's where it has to start. And it needs to be a movement. You know, um, it's easy to say, it can't happen. It won't happen.
Well, that's the hard part is giving people with power, getting them to give that power up because they are not going to do it willingly. They're going to claw and scratch. They're going to try and
Mhm.
keep every penny they got. The, the, it's not that rich people are greedy. It's that greedy people become rich. You have to be greedy to get that kind of wealth in the first
Oh, it's a
place.
certain type of person. This
And
whole
the last thing,
system
yeah, that's why
cultivates the absolute worst people
That's
and
why,
to
yeah,
get
that's why
power.
Trump shorts his staff. He'll walk out on a bill because he's greedy. He's not rich because he's greedy, or he's not greedy because he's rich. He's rich because he's always been greedy. They're all like that.
But what Cookies is saying there is simply not accurate. I'm
No, you
not
have to go
I'm
back
not
to
in
the
any
original comment
way
from Bright.
suggesting that we expect politicians to do the right thing. I'm saying we get in the streets, we go into general strikes backed by mutual aid, all these types of things, and bring the system essentially to its knees with our numbers. The real
Okay,
challenge, I would say, is getting the numbers, is having to inspiring enough people, showing them enough of a path that you get those numbers. And we saw, we've seen glimpses of what's possible, right? With the Bernie movement, as much as it's, doesn't look great in retrospect, it got huge numbers out there. I mean, Bernie was a big deal to the system. You had these huge rallies, and it was no small thing. It's not like it's impossible to ever get large numbers of people out there.
Well, and
But
that was
we have to
always
figure out
my.
messaging and plans to inspire them. Is
so you're
I would say.
saying so what you're saying is like bring the economy down to its knees, and we take care of each other through mutual aid while we're doing that. So like stop going to work for these feeding the beast basically, and work together to feed ourselves. Is that what you're
I mean,
saying?
potentially. I mean, what I'm saying, it's not all one thing. I'm saying this is why I always start with the demands, right? You have to first have people talk about a general strike, and it always kind of frankly blows my mind when people say, okay, general strike, we need a general strike. Let's do a general strike. And they haven't talked about the demands, right? If you're going to have a strike, you have to have clear demands. What are you striking for? And
And
so
every
that's
time
why I've
somebody,
started with the demands, and then from there, then we can talk about what are strategies, what are how do we get there? And yeah, that maybe a potential thing is saying, here's our list of demands. It could be my 11, it could be someone else's set, but we're going on strike until these particular demands are met.
No, that's I mean that's a great point. Like a lot of times people will, like the Occupy Wall Street, like they didn't really have any demands. They were just like,
What were their demands? Right. It was muddy.
Well, and you need a time limit on those demands, because whenever somebody says general strike, that's a strike for normies that don't have a union. And I want to know how long they think they can strike without feeding themselves. So if you don't have immediate, it's going to be way easy for them just to wait out your general hunger strike, because if you're not making money, you're not eating, and most people don't have 6 months of finances that they can eat off of. So once that clock starts ticking, you're going without food. They can wait for years. They could eat losses for years until you starve to death. And then they go, oh, okay, we'll start the machine back up. They're all dead.
So,
or like depending on, I'm sorry, I'll just make this quick point. I'll let you speak, Eric. Or like depending on when the strike breaks out, like when the protests break out, they take into consideration the weather. Oh, it'll be cold in 2 months. It'll be too cold for them to maintain this. Just let them do their thing, and they'll go home.
Let them have their temper tantrum.
So, what I would say is, what I would say is we don't want to focus on one particular piece, right? If all you focus on is, how would a general strike work? Or, elections will never get us anywhere. Or, mutual aid is great, but how does it bring about systemic change? If you just focus on one piece, then it all looks and feels impossible. What we need to be thinking about is, how do we make this a movement that brings together all the pieces? And to me, a big starting point for the movement, I'm going to use the word again, are demands, a demands-based movement that then encompasses all the things, right? So a general strike can be a piece of it. Elections are a piece of it, in that you get really difficult about your vote, in that you just simply don't vote them, don't support them, no money, no praise, unless they meet your demands, period.
Yeah. Like Desert Mantis says, the demands are the tool to unite people, and I definitely agree. And you put in like the hard work to try to flush them out and put them together. So I definitely commend you for like getting us on a path, on going down the road together on the same side of the street. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. I'm an engineer. It's how my brain works. I look at things as a system, and how do we fix it? It's like debugging. How do we debug and fix this system?
How can you get a government to clamp down on corrupt finances when it's those corrupt financial institutions that are actually paying for the campaigns of these crooked candidates? It's just that snake eating its own tail all the time. I even wore the Enron shirt just for for this particular discussion. I'll have to find a healthcare shirt for next time. But that's, you're going to have these people and all these junk. We didn't learn anything from the 80s. All that shit, everybody went, oh, we had this housing bubble, but everything's fine now. But nothing's changed. Even the names haven't even changed. They'll change the name of a shell company here or there, but the same players are still there doing the same exact thing. And everybody expects,
because we didn't fix the core. We didn't fix the system.
We didn't fix anything. It's all there. They just, they did a restart. They just, like they restarted their, they had a blue window of death. They just restarted their computer. Everything's fine.
Yeah, can we go through some of the other bullets, because like the last four, they just seemed so insurmountable to me, and I was just like, I can't even wrap my head around a solution. So I'm just very curious to hear what you have to say and what everybody in the chat has to say about the last four, because they're very important, and they seem like they're just unachievable. Regulate campaign spending and lobbying. So my thing about lobbying, okay, I
Yeah.
understand.
How, how,
Go
how do
ahead,
you get
Pastor.
how do you get politicians to vote against their own self-interest? That's the tricky part.
Well, again, like I said, it's going to have to be a movement. Like these things aren't things that just happen or we just demand them and they happen. I mean, this is going to have to be a mass movement of really of people working in a cohesive way, with these demands as the backbone. We are, I think you can see in the current moment, things are possible. Like we've seen the protests that have happened over Israel, Gaza, were unimaginable a few years ago. It's and they have a clear demand, right? Free Palestine, justice for the Palestinians, and that really it kind of shows you what can happen if people are energized, if they know what they want, and they're going to go out and demand it. Now, if we can take that and roll that into something larger, into something real systemic change, there is some possibilities here. I know a lot of people don't want to hear about electoral politics, but I think the Stein campaign could be a really big deal. You have these millions of people who again are seeing these dead kids in front of them every day, and there's going to be a way for them to cast a vote against what's happening there.
Yeah,
if we can expand that right into fixing the system, we need to make corruption become like politically toxic. It needs to be a thing where if you're a corrupt politician, then you're my enemy. And I'm going to go as far as getting in the street and shouting at you and flooding the streets and shutting stuff down to make some real change. That's to me is the bridge to the next step.
Jacqueline, to answer your question, okay, Eric, just in case you don't see it, it says it might be against their interests now, but they won't always be elected politicians, and also is what they are voting for in the interest of their children or relatives. Okay, we're talking about rich people. When they get into politics, their wealth quadruples. Like their children's interests are taken care of. Their trust funds, and they're going to be set for life. Their children, their children's children. So yeah, that's my response to that. If anybody else wants to say something.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of capitalism, breeds, like I said, the worst type of people are the ones that get to the top, right? What's a billionaire? A billionaire is the most cleverest sociopath we have. they're just willing to do anything to get to the top. And so that's the type of people we're dealing with. We need to evolve. This is something that Caitlin Johnstone, writes about sometimes, is the idea that we need to evolve as a species, humanity, and we're going to have to evolve or die, basically, into a species that sees that type of billionaire capitalism as a mental illness, right? I mean, we should be giving billionaires therapy and just keeping them out of the way until they're cured of this malady called, late stage capitalism syndrome. That's the kind of society we need to evolve to.
Yeah. I'm going to go out of order real quick. I'm going to come back to the
You're out of order now.
and prosecute corruption.
This whole court's out of order.
You're out of order.
Fuck you. You're cool. So the ban revolving door politics, investigate, prosecute companies that use jobs as bribes, disallow former high-ranking employees serving as representatives or lobbyists. I would take that a step further and say disallow high-ranking employees to become media personalities like
Jen
Psaki, Alan Greenspan's wife, Andrea Mitchell. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I would take that a step further, but
and beyond politics, and
media is a big deal.
I'm tired of these FDA veterinarians becoming the CEO of Pfizer and back, and vice versa.
Yes, and going into the law firms, and then going back into politics, based on who won the election, their job is
Hmm.
already, set for them. So when the other person wins, they just go back to their law firm. That's a evil law firm, by the way. That's
Uh,
protecting these
as
psychopaths.
opposed to those imaginary law firms.
So this word investigate. So I'm gonna combine the second to last one and the third to last one because of the word investigate and prosecute. Okay, this is what I couldn't overcome. Who's going to be doing these investigations? Like, I just think of the police investigating themselves
Mhm.
and found that they didn't do anything wrong. That's all I could think about when we think about investigations. Or
The the IDF investigating a car with 322 bullet holes in it.
yeah,
Hmm.
Mueller's investigation. Like, uh, who's supposed to be doing the investigating? I don't see a clear solution on how to overcome that. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Maybe we could send Fauci into China so he could investigate that Wuhan lab and take his magnifying glass with him. Yeah, it's all dog and pony. It always has. It's just now it's in our face because we have social media and we have instant communications and we have a wider knowledge of what's going on. I think
Hmm.
it's always been this way. It's just now
Hmm.
we can't ignore it. It's impossible to ignore.
But
So
that's a good
so
thing
Yeah, I
because
think
everybody
so.
gets it. Like if you run a poll, right, and ask people, just any group of people, except maybe members of Congress, but if you ask the question, do you think Congress is corrupt?
Yeah.
What would be the yes number on that? 70, 80, 90%
Oh,
for the
I
average
bet you could get
person?
well over 80. Well
yeah,
over 80.
well over 80
So that's a big
for
deal.
sure.
I mean, that's not a small, part of all this. People get it. People get it that it's dirty, it's corrupt. People are looking for a path of like, what do we do about it? And it's going to be a big lift. It's going to be, the system has had 200 plus years to get this bad. It was bad from the beginning, and I think it's reached a breaking point. And that's bad because things may get messy and really dangerous, because no matter what we do, something's gonna collapse. Like, it can't keep up this way. But in that, you also have opportunity. You have the potential for a real movement, and it's a matter of to me, it's a matter of directing that energy and that thing that everybody knows what's going on, of directing that into, okay, what would be the real fixes for this. And for what you're
Yeah.
saying, right? Yeah, investigate and prosecute. These lower points are downstream of the bigger fixes, right? I mean, until you have that constitutional amendment, until you have real changes in clean elections law and things like that, then yeah, these lower points aren't going to happen. It's going to be a big lift, and it's again, like I said, it's going to need um, a movement. It's going to need um, literally millions of people um,
Well, yeah,
making it,
we need to
forcing the
take
issue.
we need to take a page out of the NIH playbook and never let a good emergency go to waste. When now that everybody's, I think this election, this come November, whatever date it is that they're going to swap Biden out. Now, I've made the prediction that he's not going to be in after July 4th. So I made that one early and I'm running out on time of that one. But I'm guessing what August is DNC convention. That sounds like another good target date. And once
Well,
they do that, I think that's going to be the time to with a strike when the iron's hot.
I'm not
That's
quite
my
sure that they will because they're already talking about. We're getting off topic, but they're already talking about how he should say, I'm not going to debate a convicted felon." So he's already trying to get out of the debate. So if he doesn't have to debate him, I think they might just trot him along like like Bernie, not Bern, not Bernie Sanders. Weekend at Bernie's
weekend
Bernie.
at Bernie, yeah. Cart him around.
Right.
Get the Easter Bunny to lend a hand. Give him a hand, tell him where to go.
Tie the strings to his hand, tie it to his wrist so he can wave at people.
Yeah,
Not
let's
just have it be the billionaires and their invisible puppet strings.
let's
Yeah.
bet $1, mastermind.
Yeah.
But I think as a left movement, right, the real left, our stance should be it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if Biden or Trump gets elected. It's for systemically. It doesn't change anything. If they swap Biden in for Kamala or Gavin Newsom, or if they swap someone else in for Trump, it doesn't change anything.
Not at
And
all.
so part of the challenge for our left movement is to talk about these things, but then always say, it doesn't matter. Like the real change, the real things that needs to happen are in our demands. This is what real systemic change looks like.
Yeah. So I'm still not quite clear on how we would investigate and prosecute. Like I feel like it would have to be like people in the community. Like it would have to be something like almost like the civilians or the jurors, and it has to be transparent. Like how they'll throw stuff out where the jury doesn't even get to hear all the pieces of information, because if they did, they wouldn't
Right.
vote the way that they voted. You know what I'm saying? So it would have to be something like that where we the people are way more involved in the prosecution process. Like we get to decide.
Right.
Because if it's like behind closed doors and they're doing all this, transparency. Yes, exactly.
Well, if you notice, the last bullet point is demand radical transparency for all representatives and agencies. And yes, I mean, that's huge. And the more we have of that, then the better things will go.
Yeah, we've gotten to the point where, as American civilians, we have accepted the fact that there's two justice systems, one for us and the ones who can afford to outrun the law. They don't ever have to pay for their crimes. They don't ever make restitution. They make their own laws, and we accept it. It's been going on for so long that we just know, oh, yeah, that rich guy's son killed 2 people in a boating accident, but as soon as he gives their family $50K, that's all going to go away. Was he drunk? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
We just watched that. The Murdochs. We just watched that.
It doesn't matter the name. They're all the same. It happens every year in every state. You just saw that one.
Your better half said no gag orders.
Yeah, right.
So like the demand radical transparency for all representatives and agencies. So just speaking about representatives, okay, I agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene on this one. I think all the laws they pass, all these acts that they throw pork into and make it all convoluted because they don't want you to see all the stuff that they're adding into it. I think every vote should stand on its own issue. No more combining issues.
Omnibus. It's
single subject.
Omnibus is the worst.
Single subject votes. Period.
Before this gets away, I just want to. Where'd it go? There were no gag orders for Better Half Hour and no Haktua orders either. Just to. Sorry. Totally broke your flow.
No. It's like I hate when people say something because I'm a giggler at the moment where I'm like drinking and I'm trying to not spit out my drink because it's funny. So that's all that was.
So one of the things I think we need to do and get into is separating the idea of real democracy versus the so-called democracy we have now. right? Right now, what we have is a democracy of dollars, right? The more dollars you have, the more say you have. And if you're a billionaire, you get, 10,000, 100,000 times more votes than the average person. So I think it's crucial to not allow this corporate establishment system we don't want to allow them to make us lose sight of what real democracy is, what real democracy should be. Because it is the only way. Like you can't, there is literally no other workable, just way to organize thousands, millions of people and have justice, and have a system that works for everyone. I mean, you have to have real democracy. It's the only way. And so people who simply, if all a commentator has to say is, oh, our democracy sucks, that'll never work, we can never elect any good people, it's all corrupt and it'll never happen. Well, I mean, then what are you proposing? I mean, it's basically nihilism. It's basically like nothing. What we have to do, in my mind, is we have to demand a real democracy, a real one person, one vote democracy. And that's the path to some, with real change. And yeah, the big money has to be removed. Now, even that comment, like money must be removed. Well, it depends on which kind of money you're talking about. If you're talking about billionaire money, right? Big money, yeah, that needs to be taken out of the system. That is corruption. But if you're talking about small dollar donations, let's say we're talking about campaigns that run on donations of less than
$27.
yeah, 27 or less, right? Or a democracy dollar system, right? These are low, running it with low dollar amounts that you get from millions and millions of people. That can work. That is an extension of real one vote, one person democracy. And so I think it's the corporate establishment almost like trains us to not think this way and to not demand these things and to not consider that these things are possible, right? It's like I feel like it's a challenge to not allow the corporate establishment to make us think these things aren't possible, because that's part of their game, is to just get us all discouraged and get us all to hell with it, vote the couch, and just be done with it. Now that said, don't vote for the duopoly. As a friends don't let friends vote for the duopoly. It's
So I just thought of this about the revolving door politics. How I was like, oh, we should also add people moving to and from media. Back into politics and then back into media. I would also add sitting on boards. I'm thinking of Hunter Biden sitting on that board. Yes, because they get paid to do that. I would also add
the Cuomo thing has always been sketch too. If your dad and your brother were in politics, I don't think either one of those things actually qualifies you as a journalist and should actually disqualify you from being on CNN. I know they brought him on just for the access. Oh, we got Cuomo's son on here. He'll come in all the time. But I think that that makes about as much sense as having ex-military be police officers. It's not the same skill set. I think that it should actually disqualify. My personal opinion.
Think about small dollars. How much is too much? Yeah, I mean, as long as you're talking about, I don't know, under 1,000 or something. I mean, it's you can come up with a number. It's it's a part of the problem too. Again, it's that thing. You don't want to get too focused on one particular piece of it in one hand. Thanks, Bad Cookies. No, you don't want to get caught up in one particular piece of it, right? Because, yeah, you have the direct donations, but that's not even where most of the money comes from, right? Most of the money, it goes through PACs, the super PACs, through these different organizations. APAC is the most glaring example right now. And
I like that idea.
No donations?
Sorry, yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
No, that's fine. And so we can pivot back to that. And so And so it's why you have to have a big solution like the constitutional amendment, because you have to get at things like the super PACs, like the third party advertising. And right now it's impossible to effectively regulate those things because the Supreme Court will strike it down. And so, it's a big part of it. Imagine if a core part of the whole left movement was a move to amend style amendment. Imagine if that was like what everyone talked about all the time. We have to fix the Constitution. Money's not speech. Corporations aren't people. Imagine if that was like a touchstone of a whole movement. I think there could be real power in that.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
I'm sorry. Better half. That's like the first bullet of his list of demands, having public financing.
Yeah, it's
and that too should be open source.
Mm-hmm.
So because if
transparency,
yes, because they'll find some type of way to take the people who really don't participate in the process and take their money and put it, like they find a way if it's not transparent. So,
well, the thing they can't deal with is millions and millions of people being of the same mindset. The system cannot withstand that. And so whether it's about democracy, whether it's about small dollar, whether it's about corruption, if more than 5% even just of the populace got in a synchronized mindset about just a subset of this, the system would not be able to stand against that.
So I want to answer this. How did everyday people allow corporations to become people? We didn't. The Supreme Court did that.
Yeah.
If you look on the Move to Amend website, they have a really good video actually that talks about the history of it. And I would encourage people to check that out. I forget what it's called, but it's like a lead thing that they have on there. And it goes back to, it was a whole series of decisions and court cases that happened that just stretched that wider and wider until finally it just went to there. There's like Buckley versus Vallejo. There's a whole number of them. And so so Citizens United was only the last one, like the newer one of it. So that's why even if you just manage somehow to just overturn Citizens United, you might even be able to like effectively do a version of overturning it, like with legislation or something that still wouldn't get us very far.
Right. You have to go back to the last case. And I remember when they did that Citizens United, that one pretty much hit me anyway, but it hit a lot of people. It's like, oh, it's already done. And that's the first I heard about it is after they announced the ruling and that it was now corporations have unlimited cash and unlimited reach and unlimited. It was like,
there's superhumans.
Yeah. It's like, oh, great. So if a corporation's a person, does that mean that I'm a corporation? Where's my tax?
No, it means it's more of a person than you are.
Right.
In the eyes of the law.
And Mitt Romney.
Corporations are people, my friend. That was his big saying.
Yeah, he almost had an orgasm in his pants when that passed. He's such a baby.
Sorry, you got me on that one.
Mitt Romney caught in your throat.
Nothing worse than that. Nothing worse than that. Well,
but yeah, so it's this idea of mapping this out, I think, so that people can get kind of the same mindset. The problem. Like I wish people would just call out the billionaires more. I mean, you would think that shouldn't be a big ask, but I'll hear, even on the left, like they'll describe and get into all the problems and all this thing, and they never say the word billionaire. They never say the word corruption.
America has a sick fantasy that they're going to be a billionaire. They will simp for every billionaire because they're sure next week they're going to be one of them. That's like Trump. How can a man shit on a solid gold toilet and get somebody in a trailer home saying, that guy gets me. He's the one that's going to stand up for me. He's got to be the best hypnotist since Jesus or since Adolf Hitler to get these people to think that he is their man.
He's a good bullshit talker. And he's well resourced. That's really the combination.
but I don't understand how these people can say that Trump is one of them when he's hardly, even if it was a human being saying Trump is one of us, I would think that maybe he might be wrong. I don't.
Well, people are desperate. I mean, what they don't see other choices.
Yeah, that's kind of Jill's whole campaign right there.
Yeah, I mean,
at least it's not Biden and Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sound like a Jill Stein because, I do think she is the obvious choice, the obvious way to go at this point. And if you look at what she says, I think her rhetoric has improved a lot. I think she goes a lot harder than she used to. I think Jason Call has been a really good influence because that guy goes hard. I think he's been a really good influence on her as far as her rhetoric, how she talks about things. She actually uses the word corruption in billionaires. I wish they would do it more. I would tell them to open and end every appearance, everything, every publication, everything they do with MCDS. Start with it and end with it, because corruption is a freaking powerful word. And
I'm not so sure about her.
And if she, I mean, one thing for sure, if she got elected or if she did like a substantial turnout that really made them crazy, like a 20-30%, that would shake things up. And even that's worth doing, right?
Well, and I'm pretty sure that the Green Party has been getting at least 5%. I'm pretty sure, just the way they rub every other number, that they've been shorting them just so they can't get on stage and they can't get their matching funds. Why wouldn't they? Why would they ever admit that the Green Party had reached their goal? Unless there is a Green Party member, because they always have the Republicans count, they always have the Democrats count, but that independent thing, it's kind of, I don't know, kind of iffy there. I don't trust their numbers. I don't trust their ability to relay those numbers.
I'm kind of in agreement with Bad Cookies. If she did get elected, she would be like an Obama.
Mm-hmm. So I think what you want to look at is her history, for starters, right? She's been out there with these positions. She's had the occasional, run for president. She even ran for governor. I think might have been her first run way back in the day. But she has a long track record. So if she was going to sell out to the big money, she's left it really late. Put it that way.
Right.
It's so I would say that is one thing. If personally, I don't really see it happening that way. Like I said, based on the track record, the platform is. Oh, so that was what I was going to say. The platform. I don't think there's anything in 11 Demands you can find that's not in their platform. Now, the Green Party platform is too wordy. I wish they had made it like a bullet point version and then lead to the more text.
Expand on, right.
But as far as the content, I mean, name something that's not in the platform. I defy anybody to name like a major left initiative or something from 11 Demands that's not in the platform. But yeah, I mean, there are no guarantees.
You're talking about Jill Stein's platform?
Yeah, Jill Stein's presidential.
Yeah, it used to be like very lukewarm, but then they kind of started expounding on it. I personally like Jasmine Sherman a tad bit better than Jill Stein. That's me. That's just me. But I don't know who I'm going to vote for in November yet.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is you're not going to have a chance to vote for Jasmine Sherman.
Right.
She's not going to be on your ballot.
Who can you vote?
She's actually. She said she's on 48 ballots so far because she's in 5 parties.
Right. Mm. That's and that is an interesting workaround.
I'd be surprised to see it. Ballot access isn't that easy. So I'd have to see some receipts. I'd have to see some receipts for that.
I was shocked to hear it too, but I assume because she's in 5 different parties, that's how she finagled her way around it. But I don't know. You won't know until you see your. Well, I'm sure there's a way we could look that up. I'm going to have to look that up.
I have voted for Stein a couple times, and
I voted for her.
I will admit that I didn't even have to look that hard into her because of what she was up against. Even if I'm only 60% in favor of Jill Stein, that's still 50% more than anybody else.
Well, that is the thing. Like this November, I mean, you got to vote for somebody, and they're really the only
If
one
you
who
don't
has a
vote for the
chance.
couch.
Right. If you're not going to vote for the duopoly, really the only one who has a real chance of having any real impact will be Jill Stein. I mean, if Bad Cookies wants to talk about what's really going to happen, I mean, that's going to be the simple reality of the situation.
Well, and yeah, with here, I'll pull this up here. Oh, I missed it. Sorry.
And nothing I'm going to say is gonna please or move Bad Cookies. So I'm not really going to try with him.
He has
okay
a point.
It's okay to agree to disagree in here. That's
all
fine.
part of the discourse. Exactly. That's 100%
right.
of the discourse. If
But
everybody,
I'm still looking forward for hearing. But I'm still looking forward to hearing Bad Cookies' plan for real change. So put it that way.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, and that's
it's easy to be negative.
It's
Anybody
always
can
going
be
to be
negative,
easier to bitch at the dark than it is to light a candle. That was my grandma's. You can bitch at the dark or you can light a candle. And it's always going to be easier to find fault than it is to find solutions. But that being said, I still get the point of what, even if we're voting for Jill to get her 5% for next time, which is what I've done for the past 2 times, I still don't, even if she got 15%, they're going to say she got 4.5%, just so they don't have to let her in the door next time. You have to put your faith in a system that is.
I mean, didn't some
unworthy.
third-party person get who got over 5% before? I forgot.
Ross Perot.
Ross Perot. Yes. And is that why they changed it? They did something after that.
Well, I mean, he did it with money too. I mean, he just threw a whole bunch of his own money into it.
Yeah, he did. He
bought an hour on public television when there were only 4 channels.
Financed his own campaign.
But we also have to look at our current moment, right? I mean, there has never been a moment as crazy, as chaotic as it is now. It's never been so obvious how ridiculously corrupt and frankly evil, our system is. This whole system is. And when you have that in play, that opens up things. I mean, there can be real possibilities in that. People get it. I mean, that's why Trump got elected. That's why he gets votes. It's not because they think Trump is great. It's because they know that the system is corrupt, is rigged against them. It's rigged for the wealthy, the billionaires. And, Trump lied to them, but, it was like they took a shot.
They see him as the monkey wrench that they're going to throw in the machine.
Right, a brick in the window, yeah.
And
when they looked at Trump versus Hillary Clinton, I mean, it's
kind of a no-brainer at that point,
I wouldn't say that, but it's like you can see why.
Hillary kill machine, sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Trump can say he'll shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and nobody will do anything about it, but Hillary actually does that shit. She actually does shoot people on Fifth Avenue.
Hell yeah.
Do you guys want to laugh really quickly? Let me share my screen. So
and again, with Bad Cookies, if you got a better idea, let us know. It's easy to shit on other people's idea all day and night. It's easy.
I didn't see what he said.
Just being cookies.
He's my favorite cynic.
But at a certain point, and unbridled cynicism becomes an impediment to real change.
So maybe you're going to want to read this, Eric, and get some ideas from on how to counter corruption.
Oh, the U.S. State Department. Nice. Use their own words against them.
Yeah. I mean, they have some great ideas in here.
Right.
I mean, I think you could just pull some stuff right out of here and put it in part of your solutions for your demands for transparency and see what happens.
Well,
It
I
look,
think
it
I think
says,
what this speaks to, right? Like this is coming out of Department of State and just government stuff and whatnot. But I think
right.
what this speaks to is that these concepts are really pretty universal, right? It's about just basic fairness, basic justice. That's really what a lot of this comes down to, and it's
Well,
so basic and obvious that even like the Department of State can come to it in some fashion.
I think it speaks to propagandizing us to believe that they're really trying to do something about being transparent and end corruption. But it says that they welcome feedback, so I say go for it.
And I think a big way to think of this is interests, right? There's the interests of the top 0.1%, the billionaires, the huge corporations, and there's the interests of the 99%, and they are at odds. The billionaires, they want to basically steal all our money and resources from us that they can have it. The 99%, it's in their interest to have a system with justice, with fairness, with equality, where we can all have nice things. That's our interest. And if the 99%, or at least a chunk of them, can figure out how to work, how to turn those shared interests into action, into demands, into a movement, then there's the potential for something to happen.
Mhm.
Well, I know looking at this beard, it might be hard for you to believe that I've never read Marx or Lenin or any of that stuff. But I know enough about it to know that if it's even a possible solution to capitalism, we need to start looking at other solutions. Capitalism is just the private ownership of public resources, and I don't think that that's a way that you can legitimately run a society. I'm surprised that we've gone 200 years with this without. We used to have norms, and they used to say, oh, we'll just skim a little and we'll get along and everybody will be happy. But then they got greedy, they started skimming a lot, and then they made us pay for our own bread and circuses. And that is not going to end well for anybody. We can either ride this out until the wheels fall off, and that's going to be really painful. That's when the pitchforks and the torches and there's blood in the streets. And if we don't do something now, that's the only other way that this is going to end. This is not going to end happy unless something is done immediately.
I feel like you're
It's not
basically
too late.
saying, like, we need to put an end to this incremental progress, because it's just we're slowly climbing up a mountain, and then every now and again they'll hit you on the head and make you fall back down. So you got to start over and do it all over again.
It's like that name that tune game, or name that was the Price is Right game, where they're always going up there, and then you miss a number, and then you drop all back down.
The little mountain climber there.
Yeah.
I mean, one way I like to put it, I think I lift this from Richard Wolff, is to say, we can do better than capitalism.
Yes.
Right. I think it's good to frame these things in a positive way. And one thing that we got out of that you could see from Bernie Sanders' run is that you did have a whole bunch of people voting for it and getting excited about a candidate who called himself a socialist. Now, he wasn't real, anywhere near as real about that as we thought he would be or wanted him to be. But people showed, like, the establishment would have said, like, Bernie Sanders was a nobody before 2016. You'd have to be in lefty circles to have like even heard of him. And then all of a sudden he kind of grew and became popular. Well, that wasn't because the corporate establishment wanted him to or liked him. Like they laughed at him and considered him, ridiculous. But what he did is he went out there and he started talking about what the billionaires, right? He was, especially in the first run,
You do it.
it was a big thing, right?
You kind of sounded like him.
You started
Giant,
stealing
right?
Ross Perot's lines.
I'm a democratic socialist, and it's, but people went for it, right? I mean, the establishment would have told you people aren't interested in socialism. Socialism is they would have called it a toxic word, right?
Yeah.
Back in the
In fact,
day.
he was hanging himself with that word instead of
And
actually
millions
making
and
himself more
millions of
popular.
people literally got into the streets, went to rallies for those ideas. It wasn't for Bernie. Like he wasn't he wasn't anything to look at and really anything, but people heard those ideas and they said, yes, just it was something.
Well, and I remember at the time, I was actually I was one of those like socialists. Oh, I don't know. I think at the time, I remember saying that I think Bernie could have probably had a better run as president if instead of calling himself a democratic socialist, he would have called himself a responsible capitalist and start making responsible capitalism buzzword. And it's like, oh, define that for me, Bernie. Okay, let me define you what responsible capitalism is.
Now
Because
that's incrementalism.
right, everybody already has this preordained thought about socialism and standing in bread lines in Russia or capitalism. Nobody can even define the difference between socialism and capitalism. So right there, you're going to lose half the people. They think of socialism and they're going to think of bread lines in Russia. So right there, you've just lost half the battle right there. You can't use old terms.
And yet, Bernie became a household name. He had millions turn out. So my point is that we are in an environment where, and what?
I'm sorry, I said and completely ruin the legacy he created for himself.
Yeah,
eventually, right?
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the early days. I'm talking about what made him a household name. Were these ideas, and so what I'm putting out there is that we have these millions and millions, really hundreds of millions of people in this country who are, hungry, that are desperate for change, for the real change, for something that is essentially socialism, even if they don't know that that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at something like 11 Demands, it gets into things like housing, right? Guaranteed housing, a guaranteed job, right? You get into things, like a minimum, not only a minimum pay, but minimum standard of living, right? End the wars, right? End the wars is a hugely popular concept. And if people can translate that into something real, into something that really forces the government that's supposed to represent us, the challenge of the 99% is to force them to start doing that by our numbers and in our demands. And it's not easy. It's not something that we can just make happen. But, I think if something like a Stein campaign operates in service of that, I think it should be embraced and can be seen as a part of it. But it's only a part. If you, if that's all that happens, right? If Joe gets elected and nothing else happens, nothing else changes, yeah, I mean, she's not, it would improve some things, but it's not going to be the huge change that we need unless it's a piece of a bigger movement, of an anti-corruption, justice, real democracy movement.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to get money out of politics until we get profit out of war. I think those two.
Until we get what?
Profit out of war.
Profit out of war. Yes. So as long as you've got somebody who, yeah, exactly, that they go.
MIC, baby.
Yeah. So as long as Raytheon can give a politician $250,000 to vote the way he wants, he's always going to vote for war, and that's the way it's been since. Well, shit. Well.
Mm-hmm. For as long as it's been war, really.
I go back to 1913 in the Fed, I guess.
And so you can get into chicken and egg stuff with this, right? Because they have all this money and power, and they're using it to corrupt the system and get their way. I would say the best shot at it is to try to hit that point of where the money goes into the political system, into the government. If someone has a better idea, a better point to try to attack this at, I'm all ears. But it's easy to say, defund them or take away their money or end capitalism. But, when you're talking about making something real happen, I think it's possible to do that at this number one point in the 11 demands, in that, demanding an end to that political corruption, an end to that money flow. And if you can get in the way of that money flow, then some real stuff can start happening. But it's a long path.
At least worst case scenario, make it so that if you get a contribution from somebody, it goes on a list. There's no more of this dark money shit. So if I want to know
it's a target-rich environment, things to fix.
Yeah, right.
Can you I'm sorry, I was talking to Todd Smith.
Oh,
sorry.
I was just, if you can, at least get all these politicians to wear the labels on their uniforms like a NASCAR driver, people can at least make an informed decision.
Sponsored by.
Right. You can't get AOC saying, "Oh, I'm going to take off APAC," while she's still taking money from J Street.
So I want to speak on this comment. Better Half says we can't violently revolt and then demand peace. Yes, we can. We sure can. And then here's another. And I was just about to say this, so I'm seeing Bryce say this now. Okay, Better Half Hour. You can't be peaceful with people that are, I would say, inherently violent. I mean, they are invoking violence upon us every day with the food choices, like the economic hitmen.
Oh, the
chaos they're creating. Okay, so I'm sorry. Let me finish reading the statement. They are what they are. Sometimes you have to push back. Look at Palestine. Hamas is fighting back. They are the settlers there. So yeah, Hamas is fighting back, but they're also demanding peace. But they're willing to fight for the peace that they want to have in their lives. So I would disagree with that statement, but that's me. I don't condone violence, but I understand.
That's the only way a government works, is if they have a monopoly on the violence. That's why you can't buy a tank or an F-16. You can have your little guns. You can even have your automatic weapons. But if you have an AR, you're still not going to be able to have a 60 cal mounted on the top of your car.
The tank will just run you over.
Yeah, right. No, you can have weapons as long as they're not as good as what the owner class has.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down, again, to this core problem, right? We have a government that doesn't really represent us. Ideally, the government is supposed to be the representation of the masses, and then having it be well armed and so forth makes sense if it's truly represents the masses. But we've come into this point where it's just horribly corrupt and is almost as our enemy. But I think we need to not lose sight of, and this is one of the things that Reagan did when Reagan came in, right? What did he do? He made the government the enemy, right? He turned the government into this other. It's this other thing that's working against you, and it was a lie in the sense that the problem wasn't the government, right? The problem was who runs the government, who's in charge of it, whose interests is it working in, and that was the trick he played. He just made it about, the government, this other. And, on the violence question, I prefer it as a movement to kind of say, here's this movement that's, about peace and justice and ending the wars and being nonviolent and making it all happen. Yeah, it's like this thing, right? We're prepared. But if all the powerful are going to do is push us aside and just, we don't care about you. Well, then behind us, there may be a whole group of people that are not going to be as nice. And
it's not going to do
I can
any
see that's
good.
a threat. Unfortunately, if it really comes to that, it doesn't end well, really, for anybody. That's the problem.
We're never going to get them to hand over power by asking politely. No matter how much we beg.
We have to shut shit down.
And that's why we are going to need, if we're going to do something like a general strike, it's got to be a blitzkrieg strike, because people can't go without food forever. And they can hold out for a long time.
I hear what you're saying, but again, I would advise against getting too focused on one particular strategy or one particular idea. The challenge is, how do we weave these things together into a movement where, yeah, the general strike's part of it, electoral politics is part of it, of course, protests and rallies and getting people in the streets are part of it. But you need to really link those things together.
Oh, you're muted, Abby. How are we any
I
different?
was talking to Ty Smith because she put the answer before the question. So yeah, Better Half says, how are we any different? And I would say, like, if somebody comes in your house, somebody breaks into your house and you shoot them, does that make you the same as them? Like, they break into your house with the intention to hurt you and you shoot them. Are y'all the same? Or are you defending yourself? So Bryce Smith says, we are different because we didn't cause the problems. It is not problematic to stand up for yourself. If someone comes with violence, that's the difference. Exactly. That's the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I just think strategically, I just don't see how it ends well as far as where things end up. If you look at the Russian Revolution, they had an overthrow and, they got rid of the Tsar, but then, what came in was the USSR and even Russia today. And it's not like either of those were examples of thriving real democracies,
Yeah, I mean, I would use an example of, I don't even have to go back to the civil rights movement where they were spraying people with hoses and beating them in the streets and stuff like that. I could just go back to BLM a couple of years ago. Not even, when was Trump? I think that was a BLM protest where Trump wanted to go across the street so he could take a photo op.
Hold the Bible upside down?
Yeah. And they threw tear gas at the protesters and they were like pushing them down. So are you not supposed to defend yourself to that? Or are you like, they're going to be violent towards you?
Okay, but let's say a number of people in that crowd had AR rifles and they shot back when the cops came in and tried to do that. How would that end?
Not good for them.
How that would end is they would bring in the tanks, they would bring in the huge weapons, and they would kill everybody in sight. And then they would say that everybody they killed was a terrorist, and most of the people in this country would say, yeah, they got the terrorists.
Yeah,
I just don't see how it ends well.
Can't hear.
Oh, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be painless, and I don't think it's going to be bloodless. If it keeps going, there's no way to shock the system without shocking the system.
Well, there's a lot of shocks happening, but sorry, what, Abby?
Oh, okay. I just think they'll start thinking twice, because I don't even think they would have used. Do you remember the NF? What they called? Coalition, NFC or something. The Not Fucking Around NFAC, Not Fucking Around Coalition, when they were going to protest, like in their army gear with AR-15s. No police officer hurt any protesters out there. Right. They wouldn't even come near them because there were so many armed people guarding the protesters that they didn't want that smoke.
Right.
So I don't think they would have even thrown tear gas on those people if they would have been out there like that. Is right. What I'm saying.
Would have been hitting kids in the eye with rubber bullets if the kids could have shot back.
Yeah, I guess the counterexample I would give is what was done to MOVE in Philadelphia. It's the system's not afraid to
drop a bomb on you.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's how power responds to violence, or
Yeah.
I mean,
or to those kind of threats. So it's
the government hates competition. They like to have that monopoly on violence.
And they were black, so that
What was the name of that group that they bombed?
Mhm.
that's a little different. I mean, I don't think that's not such as bad of a look as doing that to like a crowd full of white people in the crowd. So I don't tear gas. They'll do dropping a bomb on. Yeah, I don't. Think
I bet they would have bombed the Chaz if it wasn't downtown. If there wasn't going to be actual buildings and property destroyed. Yeah, I think they would have.
Who was it? Who was it when they went in there and bombed them? Bombed
Portland. So
and I think it's a mistake to get too caught up in the strategies or the exact ways for things to happen. But if we have a consistent set of demands in a movement, again, like I was saying, it can be good cop, bad cop, right? Nice guy, good guy, bad guy. It's like you can deal with the good guy, or you can have to deal with the bad guys, right? Who are, waiting behind. But they should be united in what they're asking for and what they're going for, in demanding a system with real democracy, real justice.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
we were getting a little off topic, but I'm not sure. Go ahead, Mastermind. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just saying this is hopefully, Eric, we can get you come back and we'll do 11 parts. This is one. Next time we're going to cover healthcare, which I've got a lot to talk about because the reason I wasn't here last week and the last month has been nothing but me fighting with the state. I caregive for my 93-year-old mother-in-law. 93. She'll be 94 this July, and it has been not. I don't want to come off too tin hatty, but after I started doing Beyond the Arc and started talking about some of this shit, all of a sudden my paperwork starts getting all fucked up, and I've been doing this for 5 years, and last year they didn't take any money out of my tax returns. Somehow my W-2s got messed up, even though nothing was changed. Nothing got changed at all. And so all of a sudden now I got to make sure to get my taxes all done correctly. And it's like it's not even just like regular state fucking around stuff. It's like we're getting specifically pointed out. So I hope I'm wrong.
Breaking news. I'm so sorry.
Assange is free.
Yes. Well,
really?
Not free yet. They've reached a plea deal with the U.S. allowing him to go free. What? That's awesome.
So that means we are not trying to get him in. He's England's problem at this point, but we're not trying to bring him in. Is that right?
Well, as soon as the Justice Department drops the extradition, he would be, I would think, a free man.
Yeah, he can go back to Australia now if he wants.
He's not coming here.
Yeah, no shit. No shit. Well, neither is Netanyahu.
So it says, according to NBC News, Assange plans to plead guilty to a conspiracy charge this week as part of a plea deal with Justice Department that will allow him to go free. It says after spending 5 years in a British prison, but I think that means time served.
That should be time served, huh?
They should pay him for the two extra years that they kept him in there. I would sue. I know he won't win, but I would still sue the shit out of us.
He's due to appear in a court on Wednesday. And then it says the DOJ expects Assange will return to Australia.
Well, I'm still drinking my Stella Assange. I'm still drinking my Stella Artois until he makes it back to Australia. I haven't given up yet.
So it's not real justice, but it may be the best
Right.
they can get right now. And sometimes you have to take what you can in this
Right.
world.
At least he'll get a home cooked meal now. So
I mean, if
So
he
with
gets back to
sentencing-
Australia, like in the next couple of weeks, then the rest of it doesn't really matter.
right.
His sentencing
That's
is
awesome.
scheduled for Wednesday morning, just for you guys. You want to watch that?
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Hopefully
I'm
it'll
gonna
be
go drink a
televised.
beer. Matter of fact, as soon as this is over, I'm gonna go crack a Stella.
I think electorally, I think what Biden and his team are doing is they're going to try to clean things up for November.
Right.
They're gonna, so
cleaning
they
up
can get
loose ends.
Assange off the table. Get that out of the way, so people start bugging them about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're going to get the Israeli-Gaza situation to be kind of toned down. It's going to
Maybe
be
they'll-
like, oh, we have a
maybe-
ceasefire. It's going to be awful. It's going to be like, unthinkably awful, the situation. But they'll get it toned down so that you don't have the images of mangled children every day. I think that's going to be what they'll go for.
Before
could
they rev it back up.
Yeah.
After November, yeah, then all bets are off, right?
That's
Cosmic
what I
says
say. They can
if-
come September, October, they're going to get that Roe v. Wade thing started. So you got to vote for Biden.
yeah.
'cause it won't get finished until January or February. So keep them on that hook.
yeah.
Killier
he's-
Gorgie said keep him off the Boeing 737, Assange.
Right.
But
Well-
they've essentially killed him already. I mean, that's the really
Yeah, I
sad
think-
part of it. I mean, he's a very broken man. It is outrageous
hands
what they've
physically.
done to him. Yeah.
He's got to be a little crazy after being in solitary for that long. It can't, even if you have acts. Yeah, you just can't lock somebody up. And trust me,
It's
I know.
torture.
I've been stuck here for the last 5 years, so I can leave and go to the store technically, but no, I get what it feels like to get cabin fever for years on that.
Smells fishy. Yeah, they're gonna pull out all the stops. Todd Smith said they might even give black people reparations to vote for Biden. No, that's not happening.
Well, you know what they'll do? They'll give you reparations.
Right? Yeah.
They'll call it reparations,
Whatever they define that as.
but it'll be a commission to perhaps giving you a new agency or something.
Now this is
That'll
a
be
good
their version.
this is a good point. Rondo says their whole point was to break Julian's psyche. So I mean, like that's kind of what they did to Nelson Mandela after they broke his psyche. Okay, now you could be president, and
Right.
we all saw how that turned out. So it was a dud.
Right.
They wanted to, one thing was to disappear Assange, and they did that very effectively.
They took him off the table. You didn't get to hear him and can you imagine if they hadn't have done that? He would have been the first one to start breaking all the Gaza shit. He would have been how much farther ahead of the game we would have been if they hadn't taken him off the board.
I really
he always
hope,
made the point to put the money too. He said these wars, remember that quote? He said, the point of these wars is not to win. The point of these wars is to suck money out of the 99% up into the war machine. And who owns the war machine? The billionaires.
Don't win, don't lose, just fight to a stalemate and keep going.
Yeah. So kill your, I forgot how to pronounce it again.
Edgar Gores?
Yes, said I hope he gets back to work out of anger. I hope so too, but we'll see.
I hope he gets real health care, man.
Yeah.
And the other thing they hated him for was, especially what really got the deep state going, were a set of releases called Vault 7. And these were about hacking, and this was like their hacking tools. And that the deep state types, like they were going to crush him over that one. That one was like, that was their bread and butter. And they hated him with a passion we couldn't even imagine over that. and other
Mhm.
things. But that was a big one. People don't really know that much about it because, of course, the media didn't even report on it that much. But that was a big one.
Holy cow, we're at 2 hours and 10 minutes. This
I
was an
know.
awesome. So
I
if
know.
we do
Thank
2
you
hours
so
on
much.
each one, that's going to be 22 hours.
Boy, oh boy.
Just this stuff.
Thank you
So
so much for taking the time out to come hang out with us and further
please come
educate
back next Monday so we can do part
billions.
2.
You got it.
And,
Yeah, I don't think I have any plans next Monday.
and guys, don't forget to like and share. Don't forget to like and share.
And of course, we'll see you on in Sabbyland, where
And
you can
don't-
always catch me. And
Yes.
you can also catch these things at 11demands.org. I also have my own EricTRed .com site, so I'm not too hard to find.
And don't forget to go
Yeah.
subscribe to his YouTube
Yeah.
channel.
If you haven't liked him on Twitter or YouTube, go do that now.
Yeah, I do a tweet once in a while.
Call it X. I should
Twitter
call
X,
it. Yeah, I have a hard
platform
time.
formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah.
So I think we are wrapping this up. I was gonna go out with another Jesse Jets song.
All right,
I
cool.
want to say
Thanks
personal
thanks
thank you to all
everyone.
the civilians that hung out with us tonight. It was awesome. We're going to do this again.
You guys have a
Feedback.
wonderful rest of the night, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Be back here Monday. I love that click.
I need some.
Of Americans are, then, you know, that is extreme. That is an extreme way of thinking.
Hoped you would never find out. Knew that you had to know. Pulling what's left of my mind out, trying to tell you so. I've tried to block the light out. Know you could feel its glow. I've been here holding my hands out, trying to keep you close. Trying to keep you I really want to set you free, but I really want to let you be. And a part of me wished I could set myself aside, just let you take the ride, just chalk the rest up to destiny. I could let you believe that the only restraints in life are the size of your dreams. Let you believe each kid grows up with the world at their feet. When I know too well it's open season, I know they're taking stock and raising stocks and raising stock. And I'm simply not here to sit and watch as you learn the lesson all cogs are taught. Keep your head down and keep to task and just keep on blocking the rest of it all out. Just keep on with the rest of the herd of a million adjacent oblivious workers. The forest unseen for the trees, and the trees unseen for the fallout. No, what's more damning, baby, the truth or the ignorance? Fuck it, I honestly wonder if I see the answer so well. Baby, believe me well, I know it's scary, I scare myself. If I can find find a way out of my head, I would run like hell. I would ditch this body politic, mindless occupant somewhere far from the dismal abyss. In the tranquil crystalline bliss of the beach, I could rest with the rest of the shells. And if anyone asks, I'm anywhere else. If I'm really needed, just light the candle, then read the book, and then ring the bell. Oh, my untarnished heart, my little perfect soul, this world will melt your mercy down so they can sell its gold. This world will take your worth and then demand 1,000-fold. It's full of greedy pigs who'll eat you out of house and home. They'll strip your bank account and sweep you somewhere down the road, and then return to eat your tent and shitty bike you rode. Your bottled water, only shoes and coat and broken phone. Then smiling in your face, they'll tell you that the shelter's closed.
When you are not with where majority of Americans are, then, that is extreme. That is an extreme way of thinking.
Hoped you would never find out, knew that you had to know. Pulling what's left of my mind out, trying to tell you so. I tried to block the light, I knew you could feel its glow. I've been here holding my hands out, trying to keep you close. Trying to keep you Oh, my untarnished heart, my little perfect soul. This world will melt your mercy down so they can sell its gold. This world will take your worth, then demand 1,000-fold. I tried to block the light just so I could keep you close.